Welcome to Pinnacle's NFL Best Bets for Super Bowl 59 between the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. This show is all about props. We're going to be looking at Super Bowl MVP, over-unders, and even entertainment props. So I promise you want to stay tuned until the very end. I'm Anthony Bruno, joined by Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for over 25 years, offering the best odds and best payouts in the industry. All right, before we get into the props, I want to go over the line movement. So when we last recorded, the line was at Chiefs minus 1.5. The total was at 49.5. It is now at Chiefs minus 1, and the total is at 48.5. Scott, I know you're on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm assuming that you're feeling even better about where the line is at right now.
I do like getting a little closing line value here, Anthony, that it's gone a half point in the Eagles' direction. My evaluation hasn't changed that much. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I do think that the Eagles, they have the defense that can kind of make the difference and give them the slight edge over the Chiefs. So I'm still okay on the Eagles. I also I like that the line has moved down more on the total as well, and I'm going to stick with the under on that as well.
Yeah, we were both on the under, so I'm happy with that line movement as well. As you said, we got to get that closing line value, right?
Yeah.
But I will be adding to my position on the Chiefs, and I still actually might wait a little bit closer to kickoff to see if there's even more line movement on this. But right now, if you want to bet on the Chiefs on the money line, you are getting a phenomenal price at minus 114, one of the best prices in the market. I'm probably going to fire another bullet on Chiefs money line, but again, I might wait a little bit closer to post on this, and we'll see if there's even more money that comes in on the Philadelphia Eagles. But it looks like we're both staying with our initial picks. All right, so let's get things started with Super Bowl MVP. Scott, who are you backing to win it?
Well, probably no surprise if I'm going to side with the Philadelphia Eagles, that I'm going to take Saquon Barkley for Super Bowl MVP. He's plus 270. At Pinnacle, it was plus 266, and so it's gone up a little. But if you look at Barkley's season so far, he ran for 2,005 yards during the regular season with 13 touchdowns, has 442 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 playoff games, and the Eagles lean on him a lot. And so if they're going to have success in this game, if they're going to stop the Chiefs from winning a third straight Super Bowl, I think they're going to have to hand the ball to Barkley. And I think at that price, given how close the line is, I think there's a lot of value to be found with Barkley for MVP.
Yeah, I think if the Eagles win this game, Saquon Barkley is going to have a pretty massive game. It's very hard to disagree with that pick, considering that you're riding with the Eagles. My pick is pretty obvious for Super Bowl MVP. You know by now that I'm on the Chiefs. I like Patrick Mahomes to win Super Bowl MVP. It's pretty good value if you want to just bet on Mahomes to win MVP instead of taking the Chiefs on the money line, because chances are if the Chiefs win this game, Mahomes is probably going to win Super Bowl MVP. Right now, he's priced at plus 114 at Pinnacle. He has won Super Bowl MVP in all 3 of his Super Bowl victories. It would take a monster game, in my opinion, from either Travis Kelce or Xavier Worthy in order for this not to hit. I can't see any of the running backs winning. I can't see Hollywood Brown or DeAndre Hopkins or Juju Smith-Schuster winning, for that matter. It's going to be one of those pass catchers that I mentioned having like a 100-plus yard game, or it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. But my money will be on Mahomes at plus 114 to win his 4th Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I mean, there have been games in the past where Mahomes has won MVP, and I've sort of been not sure that he was necessarily deserving, but that's sort of the inherent bias of the award is that quarterbacks play such a huge role, and even if a receiver has a massive game, it also means the quarterback has been throwing to him, and so that makes it really difficult. Going back to my pick on Barkley, there is the risk, right, that Jalen Hurts scores several touchdowns. They push him in a few times, and Barkley doesn't end up with touchdowns, and maybe that could skew the voting towards Jalen Hurts, but if I have to pick one Philadelphia Eagle, it's definitely going to be Barkley.
I love it. You're on Barkley. I'm on Mahomes. What are you looking at next when it comes to player props?
Well, I'm going to go for a bit of a long shot here as a player prop, and I'm going to grab Quinyon Mitchell, Philadelphia Eagles rookie cornerback, to record an interception, to go over zero point 0.5 interceptions at plus 775. So this is not exactly a chalk pick here. These are we're looking at something a little bit more of a long shot. But if you look at Quinyon Mitchell, had a strong rookie season. He had 12 passes defended, which tied for second on the Eagles. Did not have an interception during the regular season at all. But he does have interceptions in 2 of the 3 Eagles playoff games. And he just continues to play a big role in a very strong Eagles secondary. And now the obvious challenge here is that you need to pick off Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes threw 11 interceptions in his first 10 games this season, has not thrown an interception in his past 8 games. And so there's obviously a big improvement in terms of ball protection there. But over those 8 games, Mahomes has gone 288 passes without throwing an interception. So you might just say he's due. But at the same time, you look back at when he last threw an interception, it was in the Chiefs' Week 10 loss against Buffalo. And if the Chiefs fall behind, they might need Mahomes to try and get the ball down the field into some tight windows. And my hope here is that the Eagles have the lead. The Chiefs are trying to come back, and Quinyon Mitchell manages to scoop an interception. And certainly at the price, I'll be hanging in right till the very end of the Super Bowl, hoping he gets it.
I love the long shot pick, Scott. And this plays right into your narrative, right? Like, you're hoping the Eagles get out to a lead. They run the ball with Saquon Barkley, and then Mahomes is forced into a passing situation, and he's got to fit the ball into tight windows. And whether it's Quinyon Mitchell or Darius Slay, if they're chasing the game, then they might come down with an interception. So I love that long shot pick. Let's go, Quinyon Mitchell. All right, so for my next prop, I'm actually looking at another Mahomes prop, and it's over 5.5 rush attempts at minus 128. The price was a little bit better before we came on to record this, so I don't love that it's steamed to minus 128. But just a few stats to bring your way. He's gone over 5.5 rush attempts in 6 of his last 7 playoff games, including his last 5 in a row. I don't know how much you look into past Super Bowls, but he's also gone over 5.5 rush attempts in all 3 of his Super Bowl victories. But one of the big reasons I like this bet is because Andy Reid, during the bye week, he was on Fox Sports 1 with Colin Cowherd, and Cowherd was asking him about using Mahomes more as a runner in the playoffs. And Andy Reid talked about how they had a couple designed runs for Mahomes in the AFC title game against Buffalo. We talked about one of those runs on our last show, that design touchdown run with Travis Kelce as the lead blocker. But another thing that Andy Reid mentioned during that interview is that Mahomes likes running more in the playoffs and late in the season. So I just find it very hard to believe that he's not going to be using his legs a lot in this game, whether it's design runs that are crafted by Andy Reid. And we've seen Mahomes so many times in these big games, whether it's a third down, a big spot, where he won't just force the ball into a tight window. He's been a lot smarter and more conservative. If a throw isn't there, he's going to tuck the ball and run. And we've seen him make so many big runs in big spots during the playoffs over recent years. So again, I don't think he's going to smash through 5.5 rush attempts, but I think we're going to get somewhere between, let's say, 6 and 10 rush attempts from him in this game. So I'll be taking him at over 5.5 minus 128.
See, I think one of the trends that has, played out in the past few years in the playoffs, especially, is you have some of these quarterbacks who, during the regular season, kind of rest themselves. Like they are not taking off and running as much. But when, your season's on the line and you have to go, scramble for a first down in the playoffs, well, then they're willing to do it. And you kind of protect yourself during the regular season, don't risk the injury, but when we come to the Super Bowl, you do what you can to gain those yards. And so I think that's the kind of thing that leans you towards taking Mahomes. Never mind the track record that he has already of being able to scramble and run design plays and all that, but I think just the do or die nature of the Super Bowl. It means that there's an opportunity there for him to, go past that total of 5.5 rushing yards. And if, God forbid, Anthony, that the Chiefs have the lead, those kneel downs can count as rushing attempts too.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the Eagles have very good cover corners, so I'm sure there's going to be moments in this game where there's just, throws aren't there, and I'm hoping that Mahomes tucks it and runs. So
you're going to be sitting there going, tuck it and run, and I'm going to be going, throw it. So Quinyon Mitchell, target the rookie.
Oh, I love it. I love how we're on the opposite side of a lot of these plays, and this is gonna be great. I love it. But Scott, what player prop are you targeting next?
Well, and this one will be more of a lean, I think, than anything, is Jalen Hurts under 18.5 pass completions. And it's minus 118 at Pinnacle. And if you go through this season, the Eagles have not asked a ton of Jalen Hurts. During the regular season, he completed more than 18 passes only 4 times. Has only done it once in 3 playoff games. And this kind of ties into the pick of Saquon Barkley for MVP. Is the Eagles are happy to keep handing the ball to Barkley and not put too much on Jalen Hurts. And so if the game goes according to plan for the Eagles, they may not need Hurts to throw a lot. Now, certainly if they fall behind, and they need to air it out, they have been able to do that, in rare occasions, and certainly they did against the Chiefs a few years ago in the Super Bowl. But I think if the game goes the way the Chiefs want it to go, they don't want Jalen Hurts to be throwing a lot. So I'm going to take him under 18.5 pass completions.
All right, so you got a lot of Eagles props going here,
Yes.
And like I said, a lot of these are playing into your narrative. I think that's a really good way to approach it, is that you got to come into this game, you got to have an idea of how the game is going to play out, and then kind of build your bets around that. It makes a ton of sense. So for my next best bet, I am looking at a Chiefs pass catcher. I was on this in the AFC Championship game. I'm going back to him. It's Xavier Worthy, over 58.5 receiving yards at plus 114. Outside of Travis Kelce, he has been the unquestioned wide receiver 1 on this team, especially during the second half of the season. He's really emerged. After Rashee Rice went down with an injury, it kind of took some time, but now they are really making an effort to get the ball in this guy's hands. He has 8 straight games with 6+ targets. He's cleared 65 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. And I just think in a do-or-die situation, he's their most explosive player. I think the Chiefs are going to do everything in their power to get the ball in his hands. He might have some rushing attempts. There's going to be some quick screen passes that I think he can bust off for big gains. They might take some shots to him downfield. I think he's in store for a very big game. I'm not going to say he's going to go for over 100 yards, but I think if the Chiefs win this game, I think he's going to be a massive part of it. And I will also be sprinkling on him to score a touchdown at plus 148.
Well, you know what? The point that you make about how he has emerged as their kind of top wide receiver, and it's such a compliment to what they get with Kelce, right? I mean, Kelce is not quite peak Kelce anymore, but as we saw a few weeks back, that he can still have really big moments in big games, and so I would expect that he's still going to get targets from Mahomes in the Super Bowl, but Kelce is not the game-breaking deep threat the way Worthy is, right? And the speed that Worthy brings to the Chiefs lineup, it's different, and it's the kind of thing that they're probably going to be trying to get the ball in his hands in many different ways, and then it'll just be a matter of how successful that is.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's a chance that he could potentially go over his receptions number, which is currently set at 5.5, and maybe under his yards. I think he's probably going to just go over both. But again, for this pick, I'm going to stick strictly with his receiving yards prop. I'm also going to be betting on his anytime touchdown, as I mentioned. So before we get into some very interesting entertainment props, I'm going to quickly go through some more player props on my end. This might be the dumbest pick I've ever made in the history of the show, and that's saying a lot. But at Pinnacle, you can actually bet on players to not score a touchdown. There's not a lot of books out there that offer this. And so with my next bet, I am going to be betting against a generational running back in Saquon Barkley. I'm going to be I'm going to be betting on him to not score a touchdown at plus 146. So this plays into the whole narrative that I think Jalen Hurts on the goal line, he's obviously going to be getting those rushing attempts with the tush push. I think Jalen Hurts probably finds the end zone one, if not multiple times in this game. So Saquon, listen, as good as he's been in the playoffs, as amazing as he's been the entire season, he hasn't scored a touchdown in 8 of 19 games this season. So that's 42% of the games that he's played this season, he has actually not scored a touchdown. And like I said, if Hurts is going to vulture all the goal line touchdowns with the tush push, we just have to avoid like a big splash 50-plus yard touchdown. Listen, Saquon can obviously get a handoff like inside the 5-yard line, but I think he's going to be involved. I think the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot in this game. He's going to get a ton of touches. I'm just going to be betting on him to not find the end zone.
Yeah, I'm just going to be waiting to see a close-up of Saquon going, watch this.
Yeah,
as he busts one for 70 yards. At least that's my hope. But I can't argue the logic. I'm totally worried that for my MVP pick that if Jalen Hurts ends up with a bunch of tush push touchdowns, that it's somehow going to take away the odds from Barkley, because he could run for 130 or 140 yards, but if he gets 0 touchdowns, I'm going to worry that whoever scores the touchdowns is going to get the nod.
Saquon, go nuts on the ground, go nuts through the air. Just please do not find the end zone. Please.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to run through a couple more props very quickly, and they're both anytime touchdown props. I actually just mentioned this during the last breakdown. Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown at minus 130. He has scored a TD in 12 of 17 games this season. I'm actually not including the game that he left in the first quarter against the Commanders. So in 12 of 17 games, again, the tush push is totally in play. I love him to score a touchdown at minus 130. And then I will also be betting on Hollywood Brown anytime touchdown at plus 277. My logic behind this one is that we've seen the design plays that Andy Reid has drawn up in these big games. You go back to Super Bowl 57, those touchdown passes that he drew up for Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, even back to the last Super Bowl against the 49ers, McCole Hardman's game-winning 3-yard touchdown. Hollywood Brown has that same type of speed and quickness to get open close to the goal line. So I think we might see like a design play for him. Again, at plus 277, far from a guarantee that this is going to hit. I just think that the profile of player who might score a touchdown similar to those other touchdowns I mentioned, it would be either Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy, as opposed to like Juju Smith-Schuster or DeAndre Hopkins, who aren't as quick in tight spaces. So that's my logic behind that pick.
Well, look, if Kadarius Toney is scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl, it's pretty much open for anyone, right? Like, you got to have some reason to like just about any Chiefs receiver to do that.
No, that's a really good point. Anyone is in play when Andy Reid is at the helm. Yeah. All right, before we close out the show, we have to talk about some entertainment props offered at Pinnacle. Scott, I know you're eyeing down a couple. What is the first one you're looking at?
My first one, and I've really put a lot of deep thought into this, Anthony, is Andy Reid to be the first coach shown by Fox during the national anthem. It's minus 115 at Pinnacle, but it's basically a toss-up here between Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni, because Sirianni is also minus 115. I am basing this entirely on Andy Reid is the more famous coach. The Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls, looking to become the first team to win 3 Super Bowls, and Reid has been the coach. So I think he's the coach that will be shown first on Fox.
Scott really going into the lab on this one, diving into the analytics. I absolutely love it. Yeah, why the hell not? I mean, with some of these entertainment props, I mean, there's really not a lot to base it on. Sure, you can dive through some things on like YouTube if you want to look at like previous Super Bowls and things like that. But no, I love it. The first entertainment prop that I'm looking at is similar to this one. So it's the market, who will Fox show crying first during the national anthem? So Chris Jones is a massive minus 332 favorite for this. But Nick Sirianni at plus 232 odds, I think these odds are way too long. Call me crazy, but during the last Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, outside of some of the big plays that happened, one of the lasting images that I remember vividly in my head is Nick Sirianni bawling his eyes out during the national anthem.
Yeah.
It became a meme. Like, it's crazy, but it's one of like the lasting images I have from that Super Bowl. I think the tears are going to be flowing down his face very quickly, and I will be betting on him as the underdog to be shown first, bawling his eyes out during the national anthem.
Well, you see, that coincides with mine then, Anthony, because you need a little bit of time for the tears to build up, and so that they can show Andy Reid, but then by the time they get to Nick Sirianni, the tears will have started to flow, and we can both be winners here.
Oh, it's perfect logic. Show Andy Reid first, give Sirianni a little bit of time to build up the emotions, and then the tears just absolutely flow. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, man. Before we close it out, I know you have one more entertainment prop you want to mention.
Sure, why not? I'm going to take the national anthem under 120.5 seconds. That's minus 103 at Pinnacle. And I went back the past 20 national anthems. 10 have gone over 120, 10 have gone under. But 2 of the overs came in at 121. So I feel like that there's a little bit more room to go on the under here. I also think in the current political climate of the United States, I'm not sure a giant sweeping anthem is necessarily going to match the turmoil that is leading up to the game. So I am going to go with the under here, under 120.5 seconds.
So, Scott, I also dug into some, so, I don't know, do I even want to call this analytics for this? But I dug into some YouTube footage of John Batiste singing the national anthem at the 2017 NBA All-Star Game. And what was outrageous is that he started that anthem with a 27-second piano riff. So I don't know exactly how this is going to be graded. I mean, we should probably ask the guys at Pinnacle if it's going to start from like the first piano note or from his first actual like vocal note. But if he's going to be riffing on the piano for 27 seconds, then I think I'm going to be on the over. So I'm going to go against you in this spot. I'm going to go over 120 and a half seconds for the national anthem.
Well, the thing is, Batiste, he's done a bunch of national anthems, and so it's really tough. Like he's gone over, he's gone under, and it all has sort of been, dependent on the circumstances. That's why he's a tougher one to scout. There are some other anthem singers who only have a couple under their belt, but from what I understand, Batiste has done a lot.
That's what this show has become. Scott and I digging into national anthem footage from like 8 years ago and hoping that it translates to 2025. Oh, it's the best. All right, Scott, are there any more plays you want to mention before we wrap this thing up, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. This is we've got to the point where we're hitting who's going to get shown on television first and which anthem going under or over. So I think I've gone deep enough.
All right, that is going to do it for our prop show for the big game between the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to check out our thoughts on the main markets, like the sides and the totals, then you can check out that video that we posted last week. But that's going to do it for our prop show. We went through a ton of props there. There is such a massive menu at Pinnacle when it comes to props for the Super Bowl. You are doing yourself a disservice if you're not checking it out, because not only is there an incredible menu, but you are going to get the best odds and best payouts across a lot of these different props. It is so much fun to bet on the Super Bowl, especially when these prop menus are available. So I hope that we are able to help you out a bit. I hope you enjoyed some of our picks. Best of luck with all of your prop picks. Best of luck with all your picks in general for the big game. Hope you enjoy it. Chiefs and Eagles, we are going to be watching every second of it. And thank you for joining us throughout the entire season on this show. It has been an absolute blast. So best of luck in the big game with all your bets. And remember to bet smart and bet Pinnacle.